Welcome to the Hokie Hoops podcast. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got Ed Williams here, and we're doing a rapid reaction episode. So we had to bring on Billy Ray Mitchell as well. Guys, we got a big commitment today, something we've been waiting for, something that Ed has been Googling every day for at least the last month. Neoklis Avdalas commits to the Hokies to play basketball next season. A 6'8", 198-pound guard, forward. Ed, I'm not really sure. Give me your initial reaction of this commitment.
I mean, I've been waiting to do kind of the off-season Hokie Hoops pod, summarize the portal adds and losses, and just kind of waiting on this, praying that this worked out, and it did, man. For them to dodge some of the bullets to make this happen is such a big deal. It's kind of hard to overstate. This is a kid who, if he had decided to stay in the draft, would have been drafted probably in the late 30s, early 40s right now. So he decided to not do that and come play at Virginia Tech for a year. So, I mean, you're talking about a bona fide professional basketball player who'll be playing in Blacksburg next year. So kudos to the staff for navigating, international recruiting is a little different. There are a lot of hurdles in this one that are not typical, the NBA being a big hurdle. So kudos to the staff. So happy for those guys. Shout out Chester Frazier. But yeah, this one's super exciting. So we'll get into it more, but very, very exciting. I'm glad it came through.
BRM, you've been following this as well. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to get into it super granularly here, but I got text messages from people who are big East people, big, fans in the Northeast of college basketball. And they're saying, yo, you just got that international kid. Like, I didn't even know that he was going to college. So I'm wearing my Metallica shirt because we have had a couple of podcasts where we've talked about, man, the offseason has just been kind of dry. And I'll admit I'm not the best at making fanfare of things that don't necessarily deserve fanfare. And I think this is a huge moment for Virginia Tech athletics and probably the biggest moment for Virginia Tech men's basketball that hasn't taken place on the court. It cannot be understated how much of a big deal this is, and gives Mike Young and this basketball team the opportunity to do some really special things next year. I'll finish with one last thing. I loved the fact that at the end of the season, Coach Young put that video out that nobody really asked for. And he said, hey, look, like, this season wasn't up to our expectations. It's not up to my expectations. We're going to go out and get to work and put together a team that you can be proud of next year. And he's done that. Ever since that video has come out, he has done everything he can to retain the players that are really good, to fill the gaps that we needed to fill. And it all essentially crests at the top of this wave that he has had this offseason with a coup that is unbelievable. I know we've been following it for a while, but if you would have told somebody that we were going to be in this position after we lost to the other international player on Cal in the ACC tournament, people would be like, okay, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And here we are.
Yeah, and I would say that this is going to be a good intro for a lot of people who haven't been following this, because I don't think Hokie Nation is really aware of how big a deal this is. And we're in a tough position here because we want to tell people about it. We don't want to hype it up too much, but this is important. This was a big recruit. And what I'm going to do to help lay the groundwork as we move through some more details about Neo, let me play a video that this is from a podcast Sam and I did about a month back. But we are waiting on one more potential addition from Neoklis Avdalas. This guy is currently at the NBA Combine. Yeah. You are rooting for this guy to stay out of the draft because if Avdalas goes to a college, the reports are he's coming to Virginia Tech.
Yes. Skill-wise, I think I have heard talks like he's the most skilled player coming into Virginia Tech since Nikhil, and maybe even more. Like, he's a professional basketball player is what you're getting.
He was not playing in the Greek league at 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a dude.
This is a dude. And so when I watch him play and the way he moves his body, it's very Matas Buzelis, who was a big prospect and is on the Bulls now. Yes, that aggression, just a big guy that can put it on the floor and get to the hoop and do some crazy up and unders and block some shots. Like, it's very Buzelis. And so I'm
he
excited.
looks like an NBA player.
Yeah.
Like his movement, the way he plays the game. He, again, like you said, like he goes after and he's aggressive, but he's not out of control. Like the game looks kind of slow to him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of characteristic of what you're getting from a lot of the European players right now is this, very offensively skilled, but slower, methodical. He could be a like significant program changer if he comes to Virginia Tech.
I know. And we shouldn't hype him up too much, but I'm telling you, watch his highlights and tell me you're not excited. Yeah, it said, tell me you're not excited, because I am excited. So Ed, you look at that video, you look at his numbers from last year, 18.5 minutes per game, 7.7 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game. Nothing is too crazy when you look at the numbers, but he did win Best Greek League Young Player. He won that award in 2024. The shooting numbers, maybe he could do a little bit better there. What does this guy bring to the table? What does he do well?
He is basically a 6'8" point guard. I mean, I don't know that he's going to play point guard, but his passing is way better than I think it gets talked about. It really stood out. In anticipation of this hopefully taking place, I actually watched the combine scrimmages, which was next level sports nerding out for me. I was sitting there watching them in the middle of the week and was really impressed with his court vision. And then he shot the ball really well at the combine. But yeah, I just, dreams of pick and rolls between Toby Lawal and Neo, because his passing ability is really, really strong. And then obviously he can knock it down, if they decide to go under on Toby or Imani Hansberry or whoever he's running a pick and roll with. The guy just reads the floor really well. Don't want to throw this label out there, but plays the game similarly to how Luka played it when he came into the NBA. Just slow but cerebral, makes really good reads, really good body control. It's really exciting.
Couple things, one funny thing and then one fact for you. So him and Luka actually have the same tattoo on the same arm, on their forearm. They both have the lion tattoo. It's on his Instagram. You can go look at it. They have the same tattoo. So hopefully we're not getting the Mahomes, Nebraska quarterback treatment. But I will say too, the fact that he's playing, for those of you not familiar with these Greek and Euroball leagues, he's playing with adults. His teammates last year, for Peristeri, he played with Ahmed Hill and he played with Jarrell Eddy. He is a teenager going out and playing against mid-20s, 30s, mid-30s kids on a consistent basis. And when you talk about the game being slow, the fact that you're making the jump not from high school to college, which is an astronomical jump at basketball and football, you're making the jump from playing against adults and playing other adults, and also playing mindful and beautiful basketball. I'm not here to poo-poo on AAU. I'm not going to do that. I certainly could, but that he's playing high-level basketball with some very good coaching and very good development, and Mike Young will be able to pick up where he left off and continue to develop him into the player that he's going to be.
Yeah, the level that he's coming from as compared to a high school player or even some of the G5 transfers, it's a completely different level that he's been experienced playing against for the last 4 years. Like I said, he's been in this league since he was 15 years old. His dad was a professional basketball player. He's large, athletic, and is a wing, I guess, Ed. He could be a point forward. He could be a combo guard. I'm not exactly sure what they want to call him, but he's versatile. And that's the long and the short of it.
I mean, I guess we'll probably get into more why did he come here? I mean, the big reason he came here was role, right? This was kind of in some ways an old school recruitment. This was not a new age NIL, walking around to different coaches with your hand out asking how much money you're going to give me recruitment. This was relationships and role driven. And that's why, he ended up in Blacksburg. The role is give me the ball and let me make things happen for you and let me showcase my talent. I mean, that's why he's coming to Virginia Tech. Big time blue blood programs, once it started to come out that he might not go to the NBA. And once those teams like Kansas missed on some other guys in the portal, they were poking around, but they couldn't offer the role that Virginia Tech could offer in terms of being able to showcase his ability. He's coming to college to showcase, this is who I am. I'm a high-level lottery pick guy. And then the relationship between Chester Frazier and the agent, and then the family as they came to Blacksburg on their visit. It was relationships and role-driven recruitment. It wasn't just dollars and cents.
I gotta say, what's going to be so interesting is we've seen it in the Mike Young system where players that are not burst your screen talented will have games where they put up 30 points, 25 points, 20 points, and you're taking a NBA ready player and you're inserting him into a system that really has never had the benefit of having a player of that caliber be involved. And what's crazy about it too, and we'll get to some of the other pieces, but there are other really good prospects on this team. And I think it also puts us in a position where these young guys who have shown the ability to run the offense, to be a contributor, you're not going to ask them to immediately be, okay, you're our one now, you need to make it happen, maybe a little bit prematurely.
Yeah, and I think NBA ready from could he have been drafted? Yes, and I believe that he would have been drafted, like Ed said, but ready to sit on the bench in the NBA, most likely, because he needs to develop. That's why he's coming to college. And he waited till the last possible second to make that decision. The deadline was 5 p.m. on Sunday, and we got the announcement today on Monday. So it took up until the last second. I think he really wanted to play in the NBA. Like all kids from a foreign country probably want to play in the NBA rather than playing in the ACC. But this is going to give him a chance to improve his stock and maybe be a lottery pick. And if everything were to go perfectly right, we want him gone in 1 year. Like that's exactly what we want. Just a few things on his actual game, Ed. I think his quickness is really impressive. Now, staying in front of people defensively, we can talk about that, but his aggression and quickness is something that jumps off the tape when you watch him. No problem going to the hoop. Very crafty player. As I said, versatile. You talked about the body control and good court vision. Those passes, finding cutters, attacking closeouts when he has the ball. I mean, he has a bag, right? As the kids would like to say, he has a bag at a young age. And even if he is young and was going to sit on the bench in the NBA, he would be a sophomore in college age-wise. So he's already a little bit older than your average freshman.
Yeah, he's coming in at 19. So, yeah, I mean, he's and coming from that professional league, I would say the challenge there might be high-level ACC guys might be a little bit more athletic than guys in that Greek league, but dealing with strength and physicality, I don't think he's going to have an issue with at all. And like I said, his offensive game popped off the screen at the combine, playing against, guys who are going to get drafted or going to play professional basketball other places around the world. So, yeah, I the ability to showcase his full range of skills, to include the passing. You mentioned the court vision. To have Toby Lawal, Amani Hansberry, Isaiah Pasha, Jaden Shute all around him. He's going to have the ability to really put up some big numbers in the assist category. But he's going to go get his own too. I mean, you look at his highlights; he's got no problem going on the lane, dunking on somebody. He's got a really nice jump shot. I think will continue to get better.
Let's talk about some of those things that he can improve upon, because we're saying all the good things, what he could do, and he's going to have this big role, maybe be our leading scorer, whatever. Why is he not going to the draft? Because you have to be in the first. He wanted to be a first rounder. So why is he not a first rounder? And I think it does come down to the shot needs to be more consistent. That's probably the biggest thing. And maybe the defensive questions as well. What else do you think he needs to improve upon?
I don't know that offensively. I think offensively, it's just show me more. I don't know that it's necessarily improve some of that stuff. It's just got to see more of it. He looked pretty limited tape considering he's only 19 and, just in general, pretty limited tape over there. But, showing more at the ACC level on the offensive side, I think is all he really needs to do, is just do what he was doing, more of it. I I thought he struggled a little bit defensively in the combine scrimmages. Got lost on a couple different things, and I think he'll improve there, especially with Chester Frazier. Super strong defensive coach. So I think defensively is where he'll need to improve, one-on-one defense, because that's a big, obviously, component of the NBA game. But offensively, I really just think it's put more of what he did on tape.
Yeah, and the streakiness of the shooting is if he can fix that, because you said he shot well at the combine, and he did, and he would have these streaks during the season even that he would shoot really well. But his catch and shoot threes or off the dribble threes, that can be improved upon.
Yep.
And I think Billy even mentioned something about his free throws before we signed on. I think he's like, what, a 70% free throw shooter? Like that.
Yeah, and the challenge is, though, like it's limited minutes, and he hasn't really been in a position where he was running. He wasn't as in charge of the offense as he's going to be here at Virginia Tech. So again, it's going to be a volume game for him on film. The thing that another angle that I'm really excited about is, especially these last 2 years, where Virginia Tech has gotten into trouble, is the lack of having somebody with an extreme bag. And when that clock runs down, Ben Burnham was usually the one who would bail us out in those situations. And kind of everybody knew that Ben Burnham was going to have to hoist up a shot. If you watch the film that we put up or check him out, zero hesitation to take it to the rim, to get fouled, to make some acrobatic layups, dunk on people. Like, we have not had that. And that's why, the highlight of last year was watching Toby Lawal, because it's so rare where you get an athlete of that caliber in, and he is going to be a really good athlete, but I'm really, really excited about his court vision and what he's going to bring in terms of just, we need to go get a bucket. And we have somebody that actually has that as their 2K player attribute, if you want to dumb it down that way.
Not only the half court, but with this vision that he has, the transition, Ed, that's the stuff that we have been lacking so much, is getting out in transition, getting easy buckets. And with him and Toby, that should be a lot easier now.
And Isaiah Pasha, and we'll probably get into more of the rest of those guys here in a second. But Pasha's a really good player too that we landed, and up until landing of Dallas, probably was the headliner, him or Imani Hansberry. Just overall though, like, the roster is elevated in a big way. We'll get into lineup combinations and stuff here in a second, but top to bottom, the lineup is elevated in a pretty big way.
Before we do that, real quick, I do just want to. I feel like this segment needs to be dove into before we go to the whole roster. I put out a tweet. It was me. I didn't sign it with my name, but I did write massive news when he had committed to Virginia Tech pending his withdrawal from the draft. This would be among one of the biggest recruits to walk on a campus for the Hokies in any sport. No, that is not hyperbole. I did get into a back and forth with somebody who was saying it's outwardly hyperbole. As far as his draft predictions for this year's draft were concerned, Hoops Hype had him as 36, ESPN had him as 51, Tankathon 48. Like you saw that he was a draft prospect. So Ed, my question is, in terms of basketball and in terms of just Virginia Tech sports in general, where does he rank among, there is a person walking onto campus and they have the ability to contribute today?
Basketball, it's different because Nikhil came in as a true freshman. But for all intents and purposes, this is a 5-star. I think I just saw a graphic. 24/7 Sports had him as the number 2 international signee. So for all intents and purposes, this is a 5-star.
That's crazy, man. Like what? And that kind of, I want to get back to Billy's question, but like, why Tech? Like, you see, I think Krabs Betts put out that tweet, like, this is legitimately the best international prospect. Like, how is he not at the Blue Bloods and he's coming to Tech? And you talked about like relationships and fit and all that stuff, but still it has me scratching my head. Like, how?
Yeah. Chester Frazier. And being able to showcase all the things he can do in order to be a lottery pick next year. You go to a place like a Duke or a Kansas or Kentucky, and you're competing with 5 other guys who have that same aspiration. Now, our guys obviously have those aspirations. Toby Lawal tested the waters this year, really good player, but he's not ball dominant. You're not going in and dealing with some 5-star point guard who wants the ball in his hands all day long at a Kansas. So being able to showcase his ability with the ball in his hands is why ultimately this worked out. That and overall relationships, and the staff did a really good job of showing him this is what you could be in our offense with the pieces we have in place.
So, Billy, I broke down your question in my head like best prospect in terms of NBA talent and best prospect in terms of walking in the door and contributing, because as we see a lot of transfers able to come in, like Grant Basile, he came in and was good and played well. Toby Lawal, even last year, 12 points a game, just coming in to Tech and playing well. But it has to be Nickeil in terms of an NBA prospect. And I would say it's Nickeil going into year 2 would really be what he is. And we should get that level out of him, and maybe even a bit more than Nickeil in year 2.
Well, think about Nickeil too. Nickeil wasn't necessarily a super ball dominant player, and he was on a team that had a bunch of other guys who, the system was completely different. The comparison that I'm drawing, and people get really upset about this, and the first thing that they throw back in your face is, and appropriately, they'll say, well, Kevin Jones, Kendall Fuller, Michael Vick. Like, all I'm simply saying is his ability to walk in the door and the talent level that he brings walking into the door is tremendous. And the only one that I can think of in recent memory is Gerard Evans. When Gerard Evans committed to Virginia Tech, it was a national story. It was a huge deal. Some people knew, or some people felt like he would be there for 1 year. That's what ended up happening. And he immediately was a difference maker and elevated the entire program and took them to the ACC championship. So in no way am I saying that Nico is Michael Vick. I am simply saying that him walking in the door and the talent level that he brings and the impact that he has the potential to have on this team next year, it's a very short list, and he's on that list.
Yeah, I think Kendall is good. I didn't know we were doing football comps, but yeah, I think Kendall's a good one because he came in and was a starter at CB1 right away, and he's in the Hall of Fame now. Like he just got inducted to the Hall of Fame this year for Virginia Tech.
It's also a little different because the NBA is drafting on projection, right? Like you look at some of the guys who are projected to go in the lottery. The easy comp for Neo is Igor Denham at BYU. Kind of the same path, right? Like, I want to go to the NBA, but I'm going to go show what I can do in college for a year first, and then I'm going to go to the NBA. And that's what Igor did at BYU. And his counting numbers aren't crazy good for BYU. I think he averaged like 9 points a game. But the NBA is drafting on complete projection. They don't care about your stats. So from an Nickeil perspective, you're dead on. Like, it's sophomore year Nickeil. Probably makes a lot of sense, and that's probably about the range that this kid could get drafted, if not higher. But I do expect his counting numbers to be a little bit higher in terms of points and assists and all these things, because he's gonna have the ball a lot.
Here's one.
There's a little bit of a difference there. It's like the NBA guys, they don't care if you average 15 a game in the ACC. They care, okay, what do I think you can average when you're 25?
We had Rodney Rice in the building. Kind of a weird situation there. Got hurt and then transferred.
$3 million man.
But he goes to Maryland. Right, exactly. And blows up this past year. Is what Rodney Rice did, one, in terms of an NBA talent level coming into Tech, that could be a decent comp. But two, what Rice did this year for Maryland. Is that the kind of level we could expect from Neo?
I think he could be better than that.
Rodney was good.
I watched a lot of Maryland. I mean, Rodney didn't have the ball in his hands a lot. He would randomly blow up one game and make like 6 threes.
Okay.
But Jacoby Gillespie had the ball in his hand the most at Maryland. But yeah, I mean, I think Denham at BYU makes a lot of sense. And he's coming here to put it on film in America and get drafted really high. And he chose Virginia Tech to do it, and we're really glad he did.
I'm usually not the person that's doing this, but there might be some international or non-Virginia Tech fans that are watching this. We do want to say we're not guaranteeing Virginia Tech is going to be in the Final Four next year and this guy's going to be Michael Jordan on the Bulls. We are just simply saying that he has the tremendous opportunity to raise the ceiling. And I know we're about to get into this. Mike Young's offseason at Virginia Tech this year, given where people's expectations were, given where we were this time last year, I cannot say enough positive things about where we sit on June 16th following the season that we just put out for Virginia Tech basketball next year.
Bill, I put something out on the Two Deep account earlier today saying that this is a big commitment and next year could be special. That's pretty much all I said. And so
Yeah.
I got a guy commenting with pushback saying, well, this team, it's going to be the same thing as a football team, bring all these guys back. You're mentioning Lawal and Hammond. I'm like, this is one, it's completely different because he was playing a couple true freshmen last year. The roster was in really bad shape. We cut all of the dead weight and we bring in maybe the best recruit we've gotten in, 5-6 years. And so I just don't think it's fair. Can we get excited about something like that? That's kind of what it is.
Well, no,
all I said is it could be special.
To your point though, where I push back, and again, it's not disrespect or backhanded or anything. Mike Young, in every year that he has been here, for the exception of 1 year, has met or exceeded his preseason ACC finishing record. The 1 year that he missed it was the year they won the ACC. So there is a reason to be excited about having what is probably the most talented basketball team in Blacksburg that we've had since 2019, when you have this coaching staff putting their fingerprints all over it. I trust Mike Young and his staff's ability to maximize the talent level on the court of the guys that are in the building. And the guys in the building are much more talented and have a much higher upside than we have had in half a decade, at least.
I mean, I don't know if Mike Young has ever had a team with this much talent on it. At Wofford, here, wherever. I mean, we're talking a couple different guys that could eventually play in the NBA. Amani Hansberry was a top 100 recruit, a 4-star prospect, and we should talk about the overall roster, Ed, since we're kind of leading there anyway. Hansberry comes over from West Virginia. This was another guy that came in via Chester Frazier. And what Chester Frazier has done in his career as a defensive coach and as a recruiter cannot be overlooked with the change that could bring to this program. So you bring in Hansberry, and we can talk more about him, but he's a big man. He's 6'9", 240. He could very well be our starting center. And I want to talk a little bit of lineups in a second, but you also mentioned Isaiah Pasha, who is a 6'4" guard from Delaware and looks to be the point or maybe backup point. I assume that he'll start over Hammond, but he's a very good player in his own right. So what are those two guys? What are your thoughts on those two? Because those are the two headliners outside of Neo.
Hansberry is a really good player. Can shoot the three, play inside really well. He's followed Frazier everywhere Frazier's been. Obviously there's a really good relationship there. We recruited him when Frazier was in Blacksburg the first time, and then he ended up at Illinois, and then West Virginia, and now Virginia Tech. Really strong player, huge upgrade at the spot. And on the Pasha side, another really good get, had a really good year at Delaware. That team wasn't very good, but he had a really good year. Can get downhill and score around the rim. So very excited about him. And then, I'll just rip off the other two really quick. Antonio Dorn, another international coming over from Germany. I expect him to kind of be the backup center and replace at a higher level, replace Patrick Wessler. He's 22, so I guess the way that works with eligibility is kind of weird. The NCAA will just determine how much eligibility he has, so I'm sure that'll go well. And then Bedford coming over from UNLV, kind of a swing guard combo, who I expect to be able to play a pretty good role coming off the bench and provide some serious consistency. Kind of, I guess you could say, replacing Jaden Young. But again, replacing at an elevated level.
I'm seeing a lot of different guys here that averaged about double digits at their previous stops. And Dorn, he played in that second division of the German league, which we've talked about it, and we think that's about A10 level. But if he's scoring 9 points a game at the A10 level, he can give us some minutes as a backup center or, spot duty if he had to start and that kind of thing. And just the maturity, his body maturity being older, I think that's going to be really good for us. And Pasha, 12 points a game at Delaware, 52% from the field. Let's compare that to a guy he'll be replacing in Jaden Young, who was shooting about, 37% from the field for the year. And so it's a major improvement there. a lot of assists down the stretch of the season for Pasha. And so the passing should be improved. The ball movement should be improved. Hopefully the turnovers should be improved by having an actual point guard.
You say the turnovers need to be improved. Absolutely agree. The other part is, and I know we already talked about it, bringing in Frazier, the defense is going to be much improved this year. That was probably one of the biggest issues of last year, right behind. I would put it right behind turnovers as the biggest issue. We couldn't stop anybody, especially down the end of the season. We just completely broke down defensively. Another year of Toby Lawal learning. Another year of Toby Lawal. Toby Lawal had to play cleanup man a lot and kind of play not out of position, but move himself around to consistently pick up whoever was driving to the rim. If we can just be more athletic, and I know we're about to put the roster up here, but if we can be larger, which we're going to be, and longer, I think that's going to help and go a long way into fixing this. Yeah, I mean, this team is significantly longer than we were last year. I'll let
so we got 6 guys that are 6'8" or taller.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the last time VT had that many guys that were 6'8" or taller. And it's not all about height, right? But Pasha, for example, CAA freshman of the year last year. And it's not a great league, but he was the best freshman in it. And then we add our 2 stud freshmen from last year, Hammond and Johnson. We haven't even talked much about Johnson, but that kid was really freaking good as a true freshman. So you get some improvement there. We watched Toby really improve his game throughout the season, learn how to be a number 1 option. He was so raw, even though he came from VCU, Ed, he was so raw coming in that he really learned a lot last year.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing basketball for very long. And then going through the NBA process and getting that feedback, I think will be really helpful for him. More development with JD Byers. Their relationship obviously super strong. And, they grind after practice together, Lawal and Byers do. And just kind of looking at the rest of it, yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about Tyler Johnson or Ben Hammond. I'm anticipating a nice little step up from Ben Hammond. That kid is a baller. And I expect him to take a pretty significant step forward as the point guard or a point guard on this team. Tyler Johnson spent his entire freshman year guarding the best player on the opposing team every night. And that can't understate how valuable that is. And we'll need that because there are some questions I think about, one of my bigger questions about the roster right now is going to be perimeter defense. And you have a guy in Johnson who can do that. And then, the 2 freshmen coming in, 2 4-stars coming in Christian Gerdick from Gonzaga and Sincere Jones from the Virginia Beach area. Sincere Jones committed as like a middling 3-star, blew up as most guys this staff recruits do. Blew up late in the cycle, ended as like a 90, I think, on 24/7.
Yeah.
So a 4-star. And then Gerdick's a stud. I don't know how much he's going to play as a true freshman behind Hansberry and Dorn. But I expect him to push for minutes pretty fast as a freshman center can in the ACC. That's tough to do from a physicality perspective, but he's built for it and is coming in having played in a really strong high school league, obviously. So, yeah, there's a lot to work with, man. Looking at this graphic up on the screen, there's a lot to work with, and it'll be interesting to see it all fall into place. But ton of talent, man. Ton of talent.
One we haven't talked about either is Jaden Shutt. I mean, Jaden Shutt was sick at the end of last year. 20 points against Syracuse, 15 against SMU, 18 against UVA, 16 against Florida State. Like, he's going to be in a position where last year was so weird because you were asking these young guys almost on like this carousel of like, hey, you're going to have to go off today and you're going to be our only hope of staying in this basketball game. And that's kind of what we were anticipating next year is we're like, all right, Tyler Johnson, all right, Jaden Shutt, all right, young guys, it's you guys again, you're running it back. They're still going to get burned, but they're not going to be in a position where, hey, you're going to need to play the best basketball that you've played in your life every third night for us to have a chance to win. And I still don't know if it's shoot or shut. I'm sure I got it wrong.
Shoot a basketball.
And he is going to get to shoot a lot because he is going to get a lot of clean looks with Neo and Pasha having the ball in their hands, making things happen from a creating perspective. I expect Jaden Shutt to get a lot of free looks and shoot the ball really well, which he did for most of last year.
So let's talk lineup here as we have the roster up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you expect Pasha to be point guard. Shoot will be your shooting guard. Neo probably comes in as that wing, that first wing, and then Lawal plays the power forward, and Hansberry, I'm assuming, is the starting center. And call it what you want, positionless basketball, whatever. But that's probably the starting five would be Pasha, Shoot, Neo, Lawal, and Hansberry. Do you agree with that, Ed?
Yeah, probably. Again, I expect good things from Ben Hammond. It's really, in a lot of ways, probably won't matter who starts because with Neo's size, you can kind of play him. He can play the 1 on offense and guard a 3 on defense. So that frees you up to do cool things with Ben Hammond and Tyler Johnson as well. But yeah, I would expect Neo, Pasha, Shoot, and you could go Neo, Pasha, Johnson, but I think Shoot, giving his ability to space the floor around those two guys who can create, and then Hansberry in the wall. Now Amani can shoot the 3, so
he can. You're right.
That'll be an interesting inside out thing. Both your 6'8", built completely differently. Like Lawal is lanky and can jump. Hansberry is a bigger guy, but they can both shoot 3s. So that'll be really interesting to see how that works. But the offensive creativity, the staff will have a lot of fun with the pieces they have. And then I think Dorn will play off the bench. I think Gerdick could play a little bit. Bedford will play, and obviously Johnson will play. So it's the top 9 or whatever is as good as it's been in quite some time.
Well, think about how much of and again, the center minutes last year at times were a disaster. Malijal Poteet was banged up. He's a super duper senior. And it was not a winning position for us to have 3 guys who are freshmen with huge upside that you feel comfortable putting into the basketball game. It took a while for us to get into a position where we felt comfortable putting Patrick Wessler in, and he did an admirable job down the stretch. But for a lot of the season last year, when Malijal was on the bench, it was a disaster. And I don't think that we're going to be in a similar situation this upcoming winter.
The versatility the staff will have to play with these lineups is really exciting because if Hammond proves himself to maybe be the one, you could play Pasha and Hammond at the same time in the backcourt because Pasha's 6'4". So you're not going to be completely screwed on defense if you play them both at once, and then you get better ball handling, better passing. Shoot is really our only true shooting guard. Bedford, he's fine, but he's definitely a bench piece. So between Pasha, Hammond, and Shoot, you can mix and match those guard lineups and have some fun with that. And then when it comes to the front court, Johnson, he can fit in anywhere. Him coming off the bench, what a luxury, because we didn't have that luxury last year.
No, we didn't have that luxury last year. And a couple of times when we had sickness or injury, we weren't in a position where if one guy isn't playing as well as he can, or one guy is just straight up not available, you're in a winless situation in most of those. And I also want to point out too, Virginia Tech's going to have a much better opportunity to win quad 1 and quad 2 games than they did previously. Last year, the team was not great, and we didn't have a lot of opportunities to punch up. The ACC was unbelievably down last year. And you look, we're playing Providence out in Connecticut. You have the battle for Atlantis going on. I think our SEC matchup is South Carolina. So they're going to be much more opportunity. NC State's going to be better. I would assume Virginia is going to be better because they can't possibly be worse than they were. And North Carolina better be better, or they're looking for a new coach. So I anticipate that the ACC will be a better league and we'll have an opportunity to move up in the metrics.
I'd be shocked if the ACC is not an 8 or 9 bid league. NC State, complete overhaul. Virginia, complete overhaul. Louisville, completely reloaded again. And then, Duke is Duke. Carolina, who knows? I don't know what's going on down there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, top to bottom, Notre Dame has a lot of talent on their roster. So yeah, it should be a much improved league. And like you said, give you much more chances to pad your resume with the quad 1 wins.
All right, I froze for a second. Ed had to drop, and we are going to close out this podcast with a couple more thoughts. Bill, do you think we addressed most of the deficiencies from last year?
I do. I feel like last year was, again, it was like a rotating game of hot potato for guys that weren't necessarily ready for that situation. And it was a shame. And I don't necessarily think 100% of that blame falls on the staff and falls on the team. Witt came out and said it, that we underestimated where we needed to sit in terms of how we were going to attack the market in the ACC, and the ACC was down last year. So I really can't think of a way that we would have had a better offseason than we just had. We retained every young player that we wanted to retain. We addressed issues that we had last year. No, to this point, crazy offseason awful occurrences, and also you get Coach Frazier back in the building. So I have a hard time not saying A+ for this offseason for Mike Young. And I think it translates well into saying, I think Mike Young would tell you this too. I think Virginia Tech should legitimately be competing for and going to the NCAA tournament. I don't think that that's crazy. I don't think that's outlandish. I know that for a lot of people, basketball is like a nice to have. And you're like, oh, like, it would be cool in February to turn on my TV and watch basketball. I think with this roster, it is something that you should absolutely prioritize to do this upcoming season.
Yeah, it sounds like it's nice to have until it's, February. Your team's not good. You have no hope at the tournament. And then you're like, why isn't our basketball team good? No.
Yes.
It's not just nice to have. It's awesome to have when football season ends, to have something fun to watch. Like when the ladies were really good and when we've had good teams, that it gets you through the winter, man. February's brutal out here. We need something to cheer for. So this is really exciting. And in terms of what we solved for, like we needed ball security, we needed size, we needed passing, we needed wing depth. We got all of that. One last piece was shooting. We didn't have a great year shooting the basketball from distance last year. That's a little bit of a wait and see, but I expect Ben Hammond to be much better shooting the ball. I expect Tyler Johnson, Toby. I expect Pasha to be able to shoot the basketball. And Neo, when he gets with Mike Young and gets here and has a decent team around him to get better open looks, I think he's going to hit his catch and shoot threes. I think he's going to hit off the dribble.
I also, I'm going to keep singing his praises, Jaden Shutt. And also last year I really attest a lot of our bad shooting to the fact that we were taking a lot of bad shots at the end of the shot clock. And a lot of that had to do with our inability to get to the rim. Like there was a lot of swinging the ball around outside of the 3-point arc. And then eventually it ends up with somebody and the buzzer's ticking down and you just got to put up a shot. I think this gives us a much better opportunity to have some symbiotic relationship-y passing and getting into the paint. And also Toby, I don't particularly care if he shoots better from 15 feet out. I just care that he continues to polish his paint game, and I hope that he continues to polish his ability to not foul and play good defense. His ability to stay out of foul trouble is going to be important for this team next year.
It was a good point about the getting to the rim, because that's something that Neo does really well, is getting to the rim, being aggressive, attacking those closeouts, like I said earlier. And if you can create your own shot, which we have a couple more guys that I think can do that this year, and Neo's good in the mid-range as well, it opens up everything else. And we also won't have Jaden Young dragging down all of our percentages because he was a bit of a chucker. I'm not trying to speak ill of someone who's left the program, because I appreciate him coming to the Hokies and playing for a couple years. And he landed at UNC, so good for him. But he shot the ball a lot and he missed a lot. And so it's getting that like 25% from three out of the program when he shot more than just about anybody else. That'll help your shooting numbers.
And think about, not to speak of another player that left the program, but look at the difference that Sean Padula made for Ole Miss. His ability just to go in and be a guy who can take the shot and be a guy who can penetrate the middle, like worked wonders for Chris Beard and Ole Miss last year. So again, I think it is going to be a very different product than we're watching, and you're not tuning in to see, is Toby Lawal going to make ESPN's top 10 plays? Because that's transparently, that's what it was last year for most people. It wasn't for me. I was excited when we beat Notre Dame. I was excited. I'm going to watch as many games as I possibly can, even when we're tipping off against Boston College at 9:00 and we haven't won there in 100 years. But I'm really, really, really excited about this basketball team.
So we talked a little bit about expectations already. Tournament, I know some people think like we were 13-19 last year. Like just get to 500 before you start talking tournament. Okay, if you follow college basketball, you know how small the line is between 13 wins and 20 wins. Like if you're 500, it means you're probably 16 or 17 wins. You get 3 or 4 more, you have a chance of getting into the tournament.
Yep.
A lot of teams make the tournament. It is absolutely a goal we should have for next season based on Mike Young and this roster. There's no question.
And he would tell you that too. With this much, and again, it's in Virginia Tech's blood to be show me and super cautious. And I'm not telling you shouldn't do that. All I'm saying is you got a coach in Mike Young who maximizes the talent in the building, and the talent level in the building is higher than it's been ever since he's been here. So I have great expectations. And I think the most important thing, if you look back at the best year at Mike Young's time, it was that 2021 year. And that 2021 year, the biggest thing that held that team back before they went on that run was chemistry. You're going to have a lot of new faces in this building coming up this next year. So getting those guys together, making sure that they're good relationship on and off the court, handling everything. I know that we had a little, I don't want to say cultural issues, but we had, the team didn't seem to have fun playing basketball together 2 years ago. And then you had last year. So culture, mesh, and making it all come together is going to be what's most important.
I think last year, the one thing that we did see was them bring it together. It took until after out of conference play, but how much better did that team get?
Oh,
it was impressive as hell. I know they weren't a great team, but like we were competing in just about every game in ACC play.
Yes, it took a while to get it all together. And again, that's there's no way to have this conversation without saying the team was not an ACC caliber basketball team last year. It was not. That's well documented, and we still finished above expectations. Yep. So
we didn't finish last.
No,
Miami had a real disaster on their hands. We picked up the pieces, and that shows you the best coaches. When you are having an awful start like we did last year, and you're able to pick it up to the point that you are within 5 points of some of the best teams in the league. I know Duke served us up a beatdown, but they did that to everybody. We were with Louisville, we were with SMU. We were in those games despite being way out talented.
ACC is going to be fun to watch. Got some fun coaches coming into the fold. Will Wade is already throwing darts at interconference opponents and everything. I mean, it's going to be
the Will Wade experience is going to be fun.
It's going to be a ton of fun. A couple of other just headlines going on. I know I do want to say congratulations to Coach Webby. He is going down to Stetson. He's going to be an assistant coach down there. I hesitate to say this, Pete, because it's crazy that this is even a topic. And I am generally support everything Virginia Tech. The TFL tags have got to stop. I like the posts. I vote for us, but I am getting tagged like 3 or 4 times. And I am always for ruthlessly prioritizing and reaching out. The 4 or 5 tags a day. I'd be lying if I wasn't saying I was counting down the days till this TFL championship is decided. I hope we win. And shout out to everybody doing what they're doing. But the tagging is getting crazy. It's getting out of control.
I can't disagree. I think my thing with the TFL is I'm not really sure I understand it. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I don't really get it. I've been tagged. I've thrown a few hearts out there over the last few months, and I hope that we seal it up, whatever that championship may be.
Correct. I think I said that about as nicely as I possibly could. And I'm welcoming if somebody knows more about it. Inform me. I saw Seth Greenberg is out here promoting it. I mean, you have to give some props to the grassroots marketing job that they have done.
I mean, they're relentless. They're relentless.
Unbelievable. Liz Kitley had a video when she was walking around in New York City. I mean, they are pulling out all the stops. So
we should mention Liz Kitley getting a start, her first start for the Aces.
Yes, getting her first start, which was tremendous. I also know that the women's basketball team has a Hokie night for the Mystics game coming up. And I know that coach is actually going to be there for a happy hour before the game. So check that out.
Oh, that's
Is there
sweet.
anything else? Is there anything else that we're missing? Anything else that we need to?
Some of the girls were moving in today. I saw on the women's team. We got Kate Sears in the house. We got Amani in the house. There's actually Amani on both men's and women's basketball teams. It's the Alex of basketball, I suppose. Like it can go for either gender.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. College Baseball World Series has been fantastic. I couldn't believe the Red Sox trade yesterday of Rafael Devers.
Did you see the Father's Day video of people like they traded Devers and people thought it was fake?
That was me because it came from not Jeff Passan. It came from like this random weird account, and Ed sent it, and I was like, "Yeah, this is ridiculous." And while we're on the subject, I'm not necessarily upset that he got traded. I'm upset that you traded him to a team that already had a third baseman, and your return was pretty unsatisfactory. So,
they're the new Sacramento Kings, is those Boston Red Sox. They trade away great prospects for, I don't know, peanuts for no reason.
John Henry and the Fenway Group are just all. I have a lot of bad leadership in my fandom. I will say, check out the interview that we did with Olivia on the House ruling. Also, check out the College Football Preview magazine video that Pete and Sam just did. That was awesome. And I think
we got John McLaughlin in 2 days for Memory Lane. We're going over the Belk Bowl, a game I believe my co-host here was in the locker room for. Am I wrong?
That was my last year before I medically disqualified, 2016. That game gets swept under the rug kind of with that entire season, just because of how many different highs there were. I think it's kind of, I don't want to say swept under the rug. We don't talk nearly enough about that comeback.
Oh, we're going to talk about
football game. I think it's pretty crazy. There are so many stories that fly under the radar. Like we kind of lump all of the Syracuse losses together. That Syracuse loss is, at least in my lifetime, the worst one to go in and lose to Dino Babers and Davon Ellison, who balled out in that football game. Brought him to camp at Virginia Tech. He was told he was too slow to play at Virginia Tech, and then ended up, I think, having like 5 or 6 TFLs in that game. It was the most tackles he ever had in a game.
Eric Dungy was a baller that season in 2016.
And then that Miami game in 2016 was a ton of fun. Man, that 2016 year was just so great.
We're gonna dive into a little bit, and we're gonna talk to John about the season as a whole, as well as the game, and getting some locker room stories and whatnot. But we'll have our Memory Lane crew on Wednesday night doing that, so you can look forward to that one as well. It's gonna start getting close here, man. The summer's going by. We got this hoops coverage. We're doing our NBA show in a couple weeks for the draft. Talk a little bit more about Mike Young and the team, as well as NBA draft stuff. So yeah, no rest for the weary here at Sons of Saturday.
No rest for the weary. And we should have information about we should have information and tickets available for our Atlanta takeover, and a location announcement for the bar that we are working with for the South Carolina game. So keep an eye out for that. Pete, appreciate you. You are the best driver of the train. Like the video, subscribe, check us out on social media, and we'll be talking to y'all soon.